We began our trip in Kyoto on October 27th, 2002. Kinkakuji, the Golden Temple, was originally constructed in 1397 as a retirement villa for Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimitsu. His son converted it into a temple. In 1950, an obsessed young monk burned it to the ground. In 1955, it was fully reconstructed, but gold foil on Japanese lacquer was extended to the lower floors. The first floor is palace style. The second floor is the style of the samurai house, and the third floor is the Zen temple style. The name of the pond is Kyoko-chi, or Mirror Pond. The classic tea house is called Seka-te. Japanese schoolgirls are buying fortunes at the Shinto shrine and leaving behind those they do not like. Gracious geishas on a photo shoot in Arashiyama agree to have their pictures taken with our party. Bamboo Grove in Arashiyama. Moss Garden at the temple Gi-Oji. Plastic food menu for a Japanese restaurant. Fall chrysanthemum show in Hikone. Traditional Japanese house reconstructed at Hikone Castle Museum. Hikone-jo was completed in 1622 by the Ii family, who ruled as daimyo or feudal lords over Hikone. Much of the castle is original, and it is considered one of the finest remaining castles in Japan. It overlooks the town of Hikone and Lake Biwa. The castle is surrounded by more than 1,000 cherry trees. Some scenes from the movie Shogun were filmed in this castle. The main tower is designated as a national treasure. Genkyu-en, a Chinese-influenced garden, was completed in 1677 by Ii Naoki, the fourth lord of Hikone. We stayed in a traditional inn in Sekigahara, the site of the decisive battle in 1600 that ended a century of Japanese Civil War. Tom explains the niceties of the donabe hot pot, somewhat similar to sukiyaki, only cooked in a clay pot rather than iron pan. Pork, vegetables, mushrooms, and tofu were cooked in a boiling broth. We take the train out of Akechi, across the Mino Plain that surrounds modern Nagoya. Note the engineer's hand signals, apparently mandated to keep the engineer alert. Enter the Kyoto River Valley and get off at the end of the line in Mataki, one of the first post towns on the Nakasendo, which was historical Japan's number 2 highway. We walk about 12 kilometers through rice paddies and quiet villages before turning up a footpath into the wooded hills and onto the post town of Hosokute. This section of the Nakasendo lay forgotten for decades until rediscovered a few years ago. It is said to incorporate the longest continuous stretch of original stone paving, or ishidatami, in Japan. A stone inscription at the summit of the Biwa Pass records the poignant poem composed here by Princess Kazunomiya, who was forced against her will to leave her home in Kyoto to marry the shogun in Edo. As we rush through the pass, I look back toward the capital and ponder the transience of existence. Kosatsuba, or Public Announcement Board in the town of Okute. The edicts and regulations from the shogunate authorities were announced to town people and villagers by posting them on the official notice board, the Kosatsuba. To assist travelers, stone lanterns known as joyato, or all-night lights, were erected at each end of post towns to act as guiding beacons. Similar lights were found outside shrines. The Shinto shrine in Okute is dominated by a giant cedar said to be 1,200 years old. The entrance to the shrine is marked by a wooden gate or torii, and straw ropes known as shiminawa festooned with folded white paper strips called gohei enshrine the purity of the building or the central religious object, in this case the unique tree. Tea plantation. Mountain golf course. Picnic lunch along the trail. Through the Jusan Toga, or 13 passes, the highway follows a ridge, typical of the oldest sections of the highway that date back to the 7th century, when the valleys on either side remained uncultivated and virtually impassable. Enna. Chokokuchi Zen Buddhist Temple in Enna. A Buddhist temple is entered through a gateway, usually flanked by guardian figures. The temple complex is typically in a gracefully terraced structure of roofs capped with a spire, often with a holy font and a drum tower. The architecture varies depending on the school and the era of construction. The Upper Kyoto Valley, the heart of the Nakasendo. Shinchaya, or New Tea House. A rock in the inn's garden is inscribed with a poem by Basho, a renowned haiku poet. After being seen off and seeing off the Kyoto autumn. Dinner at the Shinchaya Inn was one of our more memorable meals. We had salted ayu or mountain trout, snails, boar's liver and roasted crickets, among other delicacies. Sunrise over the Kyoto Valley from above the Shinchaya Inn. Shinto temple at Magome. Pairs of lions often guard the main path to a Shinto shrine. Typically one is roaring and the other has a closed mouth. Magome is a well-preserved post town, nestled on a slope surrounded by beautiful countryside. It is the birthplace of novelist Shimasaki Tosan, author of Before the Dawn, which deals with the definition of Japanese and with problems of modern change. Leaving Magome, we followed footpaths through the Magome Pass to Tsumago. Tsumago is the best preserved post town on the Nakasendo, with many traditional buildings. No telephone poles, electric lines, or vending machines are allowed on the main street. Maruya Inn. Sleeping quarters were dark and heated with a charcoal brazier, but the iroriba, or fire, was lit downstairs. We descended to Nagizo Station and then climbed through the forested Nenwatoge Pass to Nojiri Station and then on to Suhara for the night. Heaters under the quilt warmed cold travelers at the Suhara Minshuku, or inn. Buddhist temple and Zen garden at Suhara. Daimyo women were kept hostage against the good behavior of their husbands, so samurai women leaving Edo or Tokyo surreptitiously, or firearms being smuggled into Edo, might be a sign of a planned coup d'etat. So travelers were monitored closely, and Fukushima was one of two major barrier stations along the Nakasendo where travelers were stopped and inspected. The restored Saki, or barrier station, at Fukushima, where travelers were inspected. Narai is the least touristed town on the old post road. Saki Brewery in Narai is marked by the belted ball of cedar branches. Issei Minshuku is housed in a 170-year-old traditional wooden building. Each room in the inn was named rather than numbered. Ours was the Cedar Room. Ice cream serving robot in Matsumoto. Matsumoto-jo is also known as Karasu-jo, or Crow Castle, because of its dark Corvine facade. The original three-turreted donjon was built circa 1595 in contrasting black and white. Steep steps and ladders lead up through 6 stories. The lower stories house a collection of feudal period guns and cannons. There is a Shinto shrine in the top rafters. Matsumoto is a modern city of 500,000 people. We took the Shinkansen, or bullet train, to Kyoto. The Shinkansen reaches speeds of 300 kilometers an hour. It runs on a continuously welded track that gives a smooth ride and eliminates the old clickety-clack of wheels running over joints. Weaving Nishijin silk brocade on jacquard handlooms that were introduced from France in 1872. Demonstration of silk kimonos. Silk painting. Kyoto ceramics. Jinkakuji was built in 1482 by Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa as a genteel retreat from the turmoil of civil war. It is the silver pavilion, but the shogun's ambition to cover it in silver was never realized, and the villa was converted into a temple on the shogun's death. Residential Kyoto. Honen Inn was established in 1680 to honor Honen, the charismatic founder of the Jodo school of Buddhism. Tetsugaku no Michi, or the Path of Philosophy, runs along the canal and is lined by cherry trees. Oku no In is a small shrine on the grounds of Nansenji. We had our last meal at the Okutan restaurant inside the garden of Chosho Inn. It specializes in tofu dishes and vegetarian temple food.